Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Pokemon Emerald Randomizer Nuzlock. Just to catch you up on what happened in between episodes, we leveled Tundra up to level 14 and she learned Ice Ball, and then Meryl was moved up to 16 and learned Rollout. Other than that, the only thing we did was go back and take all the berries that we missed. And a couple things to note are that I did decide moving forward, Azumarill will end up being an HM slave just based on the move pool. So yeah. With that being said, let's take on the gym. I do believe they're all healed up and ready to go. So we're going to pick up some Pokeballs before we go to the gym and before we forget, and then we'll take on Roxanne. So we'll take 10, get the Premier Ball, and that will be our purchases for now. So while I was training, a couple interesting Pokemon that we did miss out on those past routes were Latios and Typhlosion. They definitely would have been a lot easier to catch than the Mewtwo, but would have offered us some nice type coverage and stats. So yeah, so Roxanne, I became a gym leader so that I might apply what I learned at the Pokemon training school in battle. Would you kindly demonstrate how you battle and with which Pokemon? So obviously our type coverage is really good for this battle. I don't anticipate having many issues given the stat difference between Walrein and most of our Pokemon. Even Nosepass at this level shouldn't be too big of an issue with the stab. And we're also going to primarily level up Tundra as opposed to Azumarill for battles like these, because I think that the XP is better used on her, given her use in the main team. And so Azumarill, having looked at the movesets that she can learn from HMs, most likely will learn all three of the water type HMs, and then probably Rock Smash, because strength can be better used on a Pokemon like Tundra, where at least we get a neutral type coverage with a decent attack, as opposed to a wasted move. Although I also might just teach Tundra Surf and then strength to Azumarill. I'm not sure if she still had the strength coverage as well. So as we predicted, Nosepass is going to be a bit of an easier takedown now that we've trained a bit. And that's a good segue into just talking about some changes to how I approach these episodes that I planned for. So I noticed in the last episode, the issue mainly was the fact that we were a bit underleveled for a Nuzlocke playthrough. So moving forward, during episodes when we do come to points where we do need training, I'll either do cuts from and before and after the training itself, or I'll just speed through it if I can accelerate the video. That way we don't need to cut into different episodes and have training in between, and it'll also give us a bit more security in the actual Nuzlocke playthrough, because that was definitely an issue in the last episode. That was mainly due to the fact that I was trying to avoid long, lengthy training sessions. So we see Tundra hit 16, and that's the first gym badge in our case. The Pokemon League's rules state that the trainers are to be given this if they defeat a gym leader. So we receive the stone badge and $1,500. Thank you, Roxanne. So Rock Tomb I don't anticipate using yet. It might become useful in the future depending on who we manage to catch. However, we definitely need to start thinking about type coverage for our party. Looking ahead, the second gym shouldn't be too much of an issue because there's no super effective weaknesses on our end. So if we can just level up and make sure that we have our own stab moves, we'll be fine. And we see our old friend running after his goods. But yeah, as I was saying, we'll go heal up Tundra. I'm not too concerned about the second gym. The third gym, however, with it being lightning, if we're stuck with an all water type party, or even just a little weakness to lightning, so if it's a flying water hybrid, whatever it might be, we're going to have a serious issue at that point. So ideally we can catch a Pokemon that covers us super effective on the lightning, because at that point we'll have the fourth gym, fifth gym as neutral, sixth gym covered by ice, Tundra, all covered. So we have a Great Ball, Premier Ball, Pokeball. Perfect. A little variety. We're going to switch Meryl around for Oh, no, actually, no, there's trainers on this next route. Pardon. No, we'll use Meryl for the wild encounter, then we'll switch back to Tundra for the leveling. So, yeah. We're going to talk to our little buddy. Oh, it's you. You're that fantastic trainer who helped me in Petalburg Woods. If I know, I'm going to be in serious trouble. So, we're going to go retrieve his stolen goods for him. Before that, let's take this first wild encounter and hope for a Tangela. I'm actually okay with the Tangela. That's a nice different variety in our team. Hopefully we can catch it as opposed to our many failures in the last episode. And that will become useful for us in the 8th gym if we do keep it long term. And we can also teach it cut, which will be very important. This point, unless we have, we don't have anything to heal it with. I'm going to throw a Pokeball just because I think Tangela has a higher catch rate, so maybe the green isn't too big of an issue. No. So I don't want to waste too many Pokeballs, so I am going to fight through this sleep condition. And I also couldn't find anything on the freeze issue from the last episode in terms of the status condition. I don't know if it's a glitch with the ROM or just bad RNG, but I couldn't figure out why that had happened. So we're just going to have to hope that we don't get freezes in the future. And I'll also stock up on full heals when it's appropriate. So this is going to be, this heal sleep cycle for Tangela is going to become an issue if we can't catch it pretty quick when we do get its HP to a nice spot, because it'll just heal back up and we'll have to restart again. I'm not too concerned about it. It's more just a time issue in terms of being able to actually catch it. It's not gaining too much back each heal. So another tackle, although we were growled, and it is. I'm gonna switch into Tundra. And actually no, I'm gonna throw some Pokeballs now that it's in the yellow, and hopefully we can get a bit more of a better catch rate. The green already gave us a tick on the ground, so hopefully yellow is a bit more successful. Doesn't seem to be. We'll throw the Premier Ball, then go back to the tackles. And in the case that we do run out of Pokeballs before the next, I believe this Rusturf Tunnel would be our next catch, I will have to take out all the trainers beforehand and then go buy some Pokeballs. I really thought we had that there, but unfortunately not. I do think I'm going to try and save the Great Ball. I don't think that it's worth throwing just yet. If it's our last ball, I'll definitely still try and use it, but I think if we can hold on to it, we're gonna take down the health now. I think it's gonna have to be a lot lower. And I'm not sure. I'm kind of stuck on whether or not to use the Great Ball, just because if we do find something a lot more rare in the next encounter, it would be helpful to still have it. So I think we'll definitely just use the Pokeballs. Although part of me wants to go to the Great Ball to catch this Tangela just so that we can add a third Pokemon. I think we'll just stick with the Pokeballs first. I'd rather cash out on those after this battle. So again, we saw that the Wake Up was there. It just seems to be that perhaps the RNG was manipulated by the Randomizer mod so that things just take either longer or are multiplied by some sort of multiplier. We'd get the lucky tackle with the sleep miss. Now I'm wondering whether or not to use. No, we'll use another tackle and just hope for. I was gonna say another miss, but an ingrain works just as well. We'll hit another tackle on this, and then it should be down in red. Perfect. So at this point, the reason I'm stuck on the Great Ball is if we use it now while it's in the red, we'll have the highest chance that we can get to catch it. I think maybe if this Pokeball doesn't. I'm still really in the air as to what to do with the one Great Ball. I will use it on the next turn, just because regardless, the RNG hasn't been so great through this playthrough yet, so there's no point in holding off on anything that can help us in the moment for something that might not even come. For all we know, we could get another duplicate Pokemon. Yeah. The RNG seems to be much lower on catches in this ROM. Hopefully once we get better balls in the store, it'll become a bit easier. But for the moment, we're stuck with what we have. So it's out of the red, but we're going to keep throwing our balls. It doesn't seem to have any impact on the RNG, almost as if it's just set to a really low standard. But hopefully we can get it with one of our last balls and just take some of the coins we make from the trainers and go buy more. And our luck is in. There we go. So that Tangela will definitely be useful for our party. And we will name him. Some of you probably already know where I'm going with this. Spaghetti. I always found that he just looked like a ball of spaghetti as a kid, so that name works for me. So now that we have a Pokemon with Sleep Powder, if we can level him up in between episodes, I don't think we need him for this episode, but if we do end up leveling him up, the Sleep Powder will definitely be useful as a status inflicting move for catching Pokemon moving forward. So that's a big improvement, even if we don't use them for main fights, because grass type isn't the most important type coverage for my style of playthrough on Emerald. The Sleep Powder alone is a huge improvement. Oh, pardon me. So we'll go check him out a bit. Quiet, raises speed and sunshine. Good HP. And yeah, no attacking moves just yet, so we'll probably have to switch train him in between episodes, but that's fine. So what I'll do is we'll train Tundra on the trainers on this next route, and we'll come back, buy some balls, then move forward with the recovery of our friend here's goods. So if I'm not mistaken, there are 6 trainers in total. So that should give us a couple levels on Tundra and a nice amount of money to go purchase some more balls. We'll hit it with the water gun. So I think what I'm going to try and do is, if I can figure out a way to properly speed through this point, I'll accelerate it so that way it's a bit sped through, but you'll still be able to see what happens. If not, I'll just keep going at this pace to try and get through these trainers as quick as possible. So yeah. Alright, so I think given how quick this has gone through, I'm not going to bother speeding it up, although maybe in the future we can go ahead and try that out, but that wasn't too long. I thought these trainers had a lot more Pokemon in their parties than they actually do. Especially with the level difference, taking out this Pokemon was a lot quicker than it normally is through these Emerald playthroughs. So we might see Tundra hit level 18, if not, we'll be close. And I do intend on switching it to Meryl for the next encounter again, just so that we can have a lower level. And make sure that we don't accidentally take out any Pokemon, especially if it's something that we end up having a huge stat difference in between. It's not so much the level, but more if we come up against a first generation and like a three generational Pokemon evolution line, the stat difference might be major. And I also just realized, so what we'll do as we're picking up the Pokeballs is we'll go get the HM cut, and we'll teach that to Tangler right away, so that way he will have an attacking move for when we do decide to train him. But I still will train him by switch training before I start doing that, just to make sure there's a level difference, because cut without the stab is not the best move to rely upon, and a lot of the routes we've seen a lot of stronger Pokemon, so I wouldn't want to risk having Tangela get taken out by a crit or an unlucky timing, perhaps a miss or the usual suspects. So we hit the water gun, and that is the last trainer we have access to at this point. So we do hit level 18, and we're going to honestly just pop a repel. I don't want to have any more encounters on our way back. Oh, I suppose we could actually use Bullet Seed on Tangela for the time being. Honestly, it's not a very useful move to begin with, so if we're going to put it to use, it might as well be now. And then we'll also use that repel I had mentioned. Yes, we have a repel. So we'll run back and make sure we get a couple of things done. Then we'll be on a fast track towards Dewford. So let's just step, yeah, there we go, that's the end of it. Let's step into this house right here, speak to him, move, that limber way you move, you're obviously a skilled trainer, no way, don't say a word, I'm sure that you can put this hidden machine to good use. Obtained HM01. So for those of you who are unaware, that will help us cut down trees that are in our way throughout the game. That's not generic trees like the ones just to my left. They're the unique little tiny shrub looking trees that you find across the world, and that often block things like items and sometimes entire encounter spots. So ingrain or constrict, and I think we're going to get rid of constrict. I feel like ingrain might become useful for gym battles if we do end up getting Spaghetti to a higher level, especially with a neutral, or I think it might even weaken the electric type. That might be a nice backup plan for the third gym if that is the case. I don't really recall the grass lightning play. So, oh, and we forgot to get Pokeballs. A Doduo is an interesting encounter we could have missed on. I'm much happier with the Tangela we have. Spaghetti will give us a nice boost to the catching power of our party. So let's first off sell anything that we don't need. I'm not sure if berries get anything worth it. Yeah, 10 isn't quite worth getting rid of. And then the ether is 600. That's 3 balls. I will sell the Paralyze Heal just to put us on an even amount, so that way we can buy 1 extra ball. And I can just buy that back at some point if I do feel like I need it. And I will max out our purchase. We get 1 Premier Ball as a bonus. There we go. That's 21 balls in total. And what I think we'll do for the encounter is we'll put Spaghetti at the front of the party. That way, if it is a weak Pokemon that we can use Sleep on comfortably, we can do so. And if not, if there is any chance of him fainting, we'll just switch right into Meryl. I doubt there are many Pokemon with the level difference that would be able to knock out Meryl with a one-hit KO. And even if they did, Meryl was just our HM slave, so it's much more important that we take that type of risk with Meryl as opposed to Tundra. Although Tundra, there's even less of a chance of hitting a one-hit KO because of the stats and the level difference, but we'll take the precaution anyway. So, oh, what am I to do? We were on a walk. Pico. So Pico has gone missing, and obviously normally you would be a bit maybe unaware of what's going on, but having played through it, our random crook, who we may encounter prior to a wild encounter or not. Yeah, so we do see him prior to having a wild encounter. And I don't believe we switched Spaghetti in, so that's perfect. We can fight with Tundra. So this is our Team Aqua Grunt. And his Poochyena, level 11, Tundra right in. This should be a nice little XP bonus to get on top of his already high enough level. And then we get that. Quite frankly, actually, it was just as much as we were getting from wild Pokemon. I guess the Pokemon that were available to fight in the wild were giving out higher XP yields at lower levels just based on their XP gives. So we get our Devon goods, and we save Pico the Wingull, and the owner comes to get it. They call me Mr. Briny, and so we introduce ourselves. Now, if there's anything that troubles you, don't hesitate to tell me. You can usually find me in my cottage by the sea near Petalburg Woods. So if you noticed, or if you've played before, you will have already known. His cottage is by the beach that we passed by on our way here. And he will now take us to Dewford Town. So we find our wild encounter to be an Octillery. And it's kind of unfortunate that we're getting constant water encounters, but I will hit it with the sleep powder, pardon me. And perhaps a bullet seed, because I don't think that given the weakness to grass, I don't think it'll have the moves to take Spaghetti out. We'll hit it with one bullet seed and throw a Pokeball, but I'm not willing to use any more just because we just don't have the funds to waste on more water types for the party. But if we can catch it, that'd be great. That way we could drop him down as a backup HM slave. And we do see the 5 hits on the bullet seed, which is the maximum, which is nice. We can switch over to our ball screen and we'll throw a generic Pokeball. If we can get it on 1 or 2 balls, that would be a great catch. And yes, so I honestly, I think this sleep status condition is going to be a huge improvement on our catching ability. The fact that we're getting a first ball on the Octillery, I'm not going to bother nicknaming it because I don't see it making it into our party. It's just going to be a backup Pokemon in case we see faints. We'll check it out anyway. So it has suction cups, firmly anchors the body. I'm not sure what that does. Perhaps something with whirlwind, adamant nature, decent stats, and just water gun. So yeah, that's the type of Pokemon that we're going to keep as a backup. That Goofy, it's the digging. So this is a tree that we were able to cut. I think I'm going to actually leave the trainers here, however, to train in between episodes. Perhaps I can come back and just switch train Tangela. For now, we're going to make our way to Dewford and hopefully find another Pokemon to add to our party. So we're going to make our way back through here. And we do see a rare encounter entrance, but it's just for the Slowking. Oddly enough. We're not going to bother fighting. Hopefully we can get away. I should have switched out Spaghetti, and I will after this move just in case. I don't want to risk a crit, even if it does mean wasting time. Even if we would have hit a successful flea, the risks are too high. So we see the Yawn. I suppose if we had found a Slowking instead of the Tangela, we would have had the same benefit of the status condition, but with another water type, which I do not like. So we see our buddy. Hi, how'd it go? You did. You got them back. So you're a really great trainer. As my thanks. He gives us another great ball, which is a nice addition to our bag. And he has us follow him over to his Devon Corporation 3rd floor. At this point, it would be awful if this robber tried to take it. So he asks us to make a delivery for him. Although I suppose the president's going to speak with us first. So in terms of the storyline, that's kind of how the... Well, I suppose our involvement with rescuing Pico and the Devon goods itself was our first involvement, but this journey to Slateport is definitely a major kickoff for the main arc of Pokemon Emerald. So we obtain the letter. Now you should know that I am a great president, so I'd never be so cheap as to ask a favor with nothing in return. And we receive our Pokenav. Possibly the most useless item in my opinion, but... if Max in the anime loved it so much, I suppose we should give it a bit of appreciation too. So, fun fact about the Pokemon, I suppose it would have been... I don't remember what they titled that specific season of the anime, but the 3rd generation's anime seasons was aired live on TV when I was younger, obviously, and... it was the era that I got into Pokemon, was Pokemon Emerald. It was my first ever Pokemon game, like I mentioned in the last episode. And the anime was the first set of the animes that I had been introduced to, although I did not ever watch the entirety of that season. It was on when I was at school. But Max, the character, was one of the most hated characters of any Pokemon series in my opinion. I always found him to be that annoying side character that didn't really add anything. I think part of it was the fact that he didn't get to have Pokemon yet, so maybe that definitely played a role in how annoyed I got with him. But yeah, so maybe his love for the Pokenav and my hatred for his character play a role in my hatred for the Pokenav in the game. But I thought that considering how well they developed May, obviously Ash and Brock as reoccurring characters, Max was just the annoying side character that lacked any development and any general importance to the bulk of the episodes. But nonetheless, it was definitely a great part of the anime, especially compared to what we see nowadays. So anyways, moving on, before we do move back towards getting to Dewford, I just want to check that there's no encounter spots on Route 115 that we can access. I don't there's none without a Poke Rod. There is an item that we can go get. So I'll make sure that when we do end up getting a rod, we can remember to come back here and get an encounter. I'm not sure whether we get a rod prior to accessing the other end of Route 115, which is up north, which is how we would normally come down these hills. But yeah, for now, that part of the world is cut off to us without surf or a rod. So we see May, and before we fight her, we're going to put Tundra out front. I do believe we have a rival fight. So, oh, hi, Dylan. You had a match call feature put on your Pokenav. Let's register each other so we can contact one another anytime. Registered May in the Pokenav. So, oh, by the way, I passed Mr. Briny. He's on his way home. How's your Pokedex coming along? So how about a little battle? Now she's cutting to the chase. She doesn't care about our progression in the Pokedex. She only wants to battle. So, I do not remember what... Oh, it's a Lotad. I was going to say, I don't remember what Pokemon she catches at this point in the game, but I do know that when doing a speed run... For those of you who aren't particularly interested in ever watching actual speedruns of Pokemon 3rd generation games, but in the speedruns, normally the Pokemon that is most, which is the best Pokemon to start with is normally Mudkip in terms of stats and in terms of the move pool and the gym type coverage. So most speedrunners do take Mudkip, and by the time that you reach a further battle against your rival May, she has a Grovyle. And ordinarily, you would only have a Marshtomp at that point unless you were to waste time training, which obviously in the speedruns you don't do. So what I'm getting to is that fight is considered one of the hardest fights in the game should you pick Marshtomp versus Grovyle, based on the moveset of Grovyle and the stat similarity, because the ground water type of Marshtomp gives Grovyle's grass type attacks a ×4 bonus based on weakness, and then another ×2, making it ×6 based on stab. So yeah, for those of you who have seen any speedruns of the 3rd generation games, you would be very familiar with that battle. But for those of you who haven't, you may have just learned something interesting. A little fun fact about the 3rd generation. So yeah, we're just gonna come pick up this Pokeball, an X Defend, which we can sell at some point to get more Pokeballs in the future, perhaps a full heal as a backup, which I should just set aside a couple of coins just to make sure that we do get that prior to buying more Pokeballs the next time we do go purchase more. So we're going to use Cut here to grab the Pokeball that was not accessible before. Now we're going to come back here and we're going to just quickly speak to the sisters. I don't recall which one gives us a berry, but we might as well grab it. This was the one thing I hadn't done off screen. I figured, given that there's actual stuff to this, the new flower shop, the characters, there we go. I figured I'd do it on screen, but it's really just redundant. And I believe the 3rd sister would give us the watering can, but I don't plan on watering berries throughout this playthrough, so I'm not going to bother. And now we can access the right side. So we're going to take our way down here just to pick up any items that we can get our hands on. But obviously we already have our encounter done. You must be a trainer. We get the Miracle Seed, which will be useful for Spaghetti, Tangela. But yeah, that's where we're at now. We'll give that to Spaghetti. I suppose a Bullet Seed could be a useful move. Normally it's like, even when I start with Trico. It's my favorite Pokemon, and it was the first Pokemon I ever picked. But I don't even teach Trico. I don't even bother teaching Trico the Bullet Seed, just because Absorb does a lot more damage than it does, and it's just kind of a useless move. The damage on it, even with Stab and Super Effective, is so low compared to other grass type moves that are low level, introductory level moves that most grass Pokemon learn, like Absorb or Vine Whip, that it just isn't worth it. It's never worth learning in terms of an actual playthrough, and especially once you get to points where movesets become and move pools become a part of the meta of which Pokemon you want to have in your parties for the Elite Four, for gym battles. It's just such a useless move that it kind of makes me wonder why they don't revamp it. Feraligatr, I'm not sure if we'd found one in the last episode, but that's an interesting encounter. We're seeing a lot of, we've seen 2 of the Generation 2 starters in the Typhlosion off screen when we were training, and now the Feraligatr. But no Generation 1 starters yet. And in fact, if we were to find a starter, a Charmander line Pokemon would be very helpful, given that it would give us the fly coverage, give us the flying type coverage, and the fire, obviously. And with a great move pool and good stats, that'd be a great Pokemon to find as a starter. We get the Tiny Mushroom, which I'm not sure if it has any use other than sell value. So we will therefore we'll just hold on to that for a while. I'll do my research in between episodes. We pick up another potion, which is nice, and we come out at the end where we've already been. We grab another free Pokeball, and I don't believe this individual gives us anything, but I'll just speak to her anyway. You should throw Pokeballs in like wild Pokemon? Yeah, no thank you. We're definitely going to steal Pokemon. So we're just going to, well, I suppose we can just wait here. We interrupt Mr. Briny and Pico's tag match. Here, Dylan, you saved my darling Pico. What's that? You want to sail with me? You have a letter bound for Dewford and a package for Slateport then. Quite the busy life you must lead. You've come to the right man. We'll set sail for Dewford. Yes. So, at this point, we hop in his boat with a random stranger out to the ocean, and we are going to zoom to Dewford Island. So, passing Route 105, which obviously we can't really get an encounter on. Our father calls us as well. It'll be interesting to see how many routes you have to backtrack for encounters in the 3rd generation, because a lot of them are like in past generations. A lot of the time, even when there is a route like 105 here, 106 here, as well as 115 back above Rustboro, there would be wild patches where you could have your encounter, even though you were only getting a small portion of the wild encounters for the route. But in Emerald, there were a lot of water routes that the only encounters, so for example, Route 106 and Duford Town, which I believe count as separate encounters. And Route 107, actually, we got access to from Duford. Those are all encounters blocked by the fact that we don't have a rod or a surf yet. So that's something that'll be interesting for this playthrough. At some point, we will backtrack and go find all those encounters. And I'll double check to see if city, like towns and cities count as separate, unique encounter locations. Because I would assume so. Duford versus Route 117, they might even have separate encounter Pokemon throughout the normal playthroughs. But I'm not sure. So again, I'm going to start off with Spaghetti for this encounter up in the cave, just because I think that it'll be useful if we can get a sleep powder, and if we don't think it's safe, sorry, I didn't mean to come in here. If we don't think it's safe, I can always just switch out into Tundra. There's no Mart on here, is there? No, there's not. Okay, so we're stuck with the balls that we have. I'm going to slip by these trainers because, again, I think those are useful, easy trainers to beat when I'm training off screen. And we're going to talk to this man right here who gives us HM Flash. Hopefully, maybe Octillery could learn Flash, and that could at least give us some use out of it. Otherwise, I don't anticipate using it very much. Because to be honest, I mean, obviously any water Pokemon can learn Surf, so discounting Surf, it doesn't have a great moveset. So even if it were to replace anyone, Spaghetti can learn it. That's interesting. I'm not going to teach it that right now. I think that while we're still on the fence of whether or not he can enter our team long term and be like an actual member of the party, having a move tied up in Flash, which does no damage, is kind of useless. But what I was saying before that is we're going to take this encounter and then end the episode there. And that's funny that we got it the first time. And we see another water type, which is starting to get a bit annoying. There's not much else to say about that. I'm surprised we're finding so many. And to be honest, I'm not even going to bother catching it. I don't think there's a point. I should switch out. Yeah, I'm gonna do one more run because I think that we'll get it. I think there's a rod we can get in this town, and although I said we were just gonna end the episode there, if we can get a rod and take 2 more encounters, no, it wouldn't be in this place. I think it's in the other house at the other end of the city. If we can get 2 more encounters and hopefully find something of use to us. No, it's not in this house either. Must be in the middle house. I believe there's it gives us the old rod, and I'm hoping that no. Maybe I was mistaken. Is it this man here right here? Oh, it is. Wow. All right, there we go. We just wasted our time going into everyone's houses. They're probably wondering why we just broke in. But I'm not sure if that was the good rod or the old rod. We'll just check real quick. Pardon me, that's not my bag. Come over to the bag. Key items. Yeah, it's the old rod. Yeah, we'll see if it does just yield. Ordinarily, it would just yield Magikarp. I'm thinking maybe the randomizer fixes that, and we'll just switch so we don't have to waste time because he's already asleep. We'll switch to Meryl for the wild encounters. So this is our Route 107 encounter. And we'll see what it gives us. I think, honestly, if it does give a Magikarp, I'm just not going to count it as our encounter just because I'm not sure based on the README file. It's a Slackoth. Okay, so we'll take that. It's an independent Pokemon. That's our encounter. And we'll go take our Route 106 up above encounter as well while we're at it in between, so that way we can train in between episodes and come back with a better party. The constant use of status inflicting moves is a bit annoying, and I'm going to use Octillery, and quite frankly I don't mind if we do end up losing it, just because we don't need more water types at this point. Like, should we lose Meryl or Tundra, immediately I would start to prioritize the other one a lot more carefully, just based on the water coverage and the need for Surf in this generation. But to have 3 water types in the party is kind of a bit useless, to be honest. Yeah, we'll throw a Pokeball at it. I think Slackoth does have a fairly easy catch rate to manipulate with the yellow HP. Yeah, so we see that. That's actually a good Pokemon I'm glad we got, although I'm not sure whether or not he'll last a long time. Slacking, if we do manage to get that, is a huge addition. So to give it a nickname, let's name him... Let's just name him Sloth, as generic as... No, actually, no, it's too generic. Let's give him... Let's call him Zaboomafoo. Another childhood favorite show of mine. Foo. Quite funny that it has the exact amount, but we are perfect on that. Whether or not we use him will be another conversation to have, but if I can level him up decently and get Vigoroth with a decent move set, I think teaching now him strength, we'll get the stab on strength, which is a nice move to have. If you're a normal type and you use strength, it's an 80 power attack with physical damage. I think he had Yawn, so that's another type, a status condition inflicting move, which is a nice backup to have in case we lose Tangela. We're going to avoid that trainer. And so yeah, we'll take this one last encounter, and I will leave the Dewford encounter for the next episode, and I'll double check online with the rules for Nuzlocke, because I'm not sure if cities count as independent encounters. But for now, let's just make sure let's switch out into Spaghetti. Hopefully we see a different encounter than a Slackoth. I'm not quite sure what to... Another Slowking. That's unfortunate. I will try and catch it, just because I think having a Psychic type could be useful. I know it's another Water type, but we might just treat it like a Psychic and just give it non-Water type moves. I'm not familiar at all with its moveset, so we'll do our research in between episodes, and worst case it's just another backup to have. We don't want to pass up on every route's Pokemon, just because we'll get to a point where we're stuck with 1 or 2 Pokemon in a position where we have no new encounters, and that's not what we want to have. So we'll hit the tackle. I expect it to do... Wow, I was expecting a bit more than that. Well, we might as well just keep hitting it with tackles. I know we're going to run out of sleep condition, which is not ideal, but to be honest, I'm not sure if we need it. If we can get its HP low enough, we might not need that sleep condition. Luckily, we're not getting hit by the Yawn. Speak of the devil. But that's all right. We can hit another tackle, which should put it into red, and we don't have the ingrain problem we had with the Tangela, who is now Spaghetti. So we can just sit on the sleep and just throw our balls at it. I'll throw the Premier Ball first and see if we can catch it. And yeah, our luck. So for whatever reason, it appears our luck with the RNG manips with the HP are somehow improving from the start of the episode, and from the previous episode, because last time maybe it was just based on some other RNG issue from the mod for the randomizer, but we seem to have much easier time catching now, which is nice. We'll name this Pokemon... Why don't we name him Bowser? He kind of looks like a a pink Bowser. And that will be the end of the episode on that note. Let's take a look and carefully not take these trainer battles just yet. So let's take a look at the Pokemon we did just catch. Truant moves only every 2 turns, which is not what we would want on it. So that kind of makes me think we might not keep Zaboomafoo long term. Sorry, we had a little glitch there. I'm not sure if Vigoroth can have Truant as as an ability. So if that is the case and it doesn't have Truant, we might just keep an Everstone on it and level it up as a Vigoroth. And then move-wise, Scratch and Yawn, what you'd expect. And then the Slowking is own Tempo, which might prove to have a niche use, but outside of everyday battles, it's not really useful. And then the Water Psychic typing, Yawn and Tackle. No Stab type moves. I'm not familiar with his move pool, so potentially if he can learn a Psychic type, he could be useful for this gym. Having the Brawly, a Big Wave, and Fighting, which is an allusion to his Fighting type gym. But yeah, so that's everything for this episode. Once again, I will do a bit of training off screen. That way when we do come back, we can have hopefully Spaghetti leveled up. I think we'll keep in the party, and Bowser potentially. We'll look into Zaboomafoo, and then Octillery we might as well just drop into the PC now, and we will not have added it to our title screen just because I have no intention of using this Pokemon unless we do need to come back and have a backup. So we'll store him into box 1, and yeah. So thank you for watching another episode of Pokemon Emerald Nuzlock Randomizer. I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.